Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Rational Investors market recap of our daily brief that we do on the site, Monday to Friday, for a full hour market recap. This should be a nice little 10-minute survey. I do acknowledge that I went quite a bit over yesterday, so my apologies. Let's try and keep this around 10 minutes. So we should all be aware that, right off the bat, we have semi-annually, twice a year, we have what's called the Humphrey-Hawkins testimony, where the chairman of the U.S. Federal Reserve or chairwoman for that matter, is expected to go in front of the U.S. Congress and basically answer their questions about what they're doing with monetary policy. Today was day one of that event, and literally we have an old rule in the markets when I was prop trading and day trading that you have to square your positions up heading into big fundamental event windows, because you never know what the hell's going to happen. And frankly speaking, I think we got a really, really good lesson of that today. Everything was moving one direction. And then all of a sudden, Mr. Powell released his sworn statement, and the market just pivoted on a dime. Some of the markets that we talked about in the daily brief today, first and foremost, what's sort of the path, the expectation for short-term interest rates in the United States. As we had been conjecturing recently, it looked like the market was accepting the fact that the Fed was not going to cut interest rates later in the month here, near the end of the month. They meet next, the FOMC. And out of Powell's statement today, the impression that I've gotten from everything, all the talking heads and analysts, was that now they fully expect a quarter-point rate cut from Mr. Powell and the Fed at the end of the month. You can see how the market is priced in that quarter-point cut now. And we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. Keep in mind that the Humphrey-Hawkins testimony is day one, is in front of the Congress, the House of Representatives. Day two, tomorrow, will be in front of the Senate. So you never know what the heck's going to happen from day to day, but clearly the message in front of the U.S. House of Representatives was the Fed was feeling much more dovish. As a result, we had the U.S. dollar index. We talked recently about this gap and go Joby gap scenario. Basically, you measure the distance of the gapping candle. This is the US dollar index. And then just simply, if it breaks that high, project that exact same distance. And you notice late yesterday, early this morning, basically the US dollar index hit that technical objective right up against previous highs. And also, too, what was really interesting, Thomas pointed out in the call this morning on the daily brief, was that also just so happened to line up perfectly with a good old reload zone tag right into Mountain Man there. So I suppose for the professional traders, it really shouldn't have surprised anybody that the market was going to run into resistance at that level. But just such a great example of this gap and go, Joby gap, Doji gap scenario, and technical objectives being hit. Now, with the idea that the Fed is going to lower interest rates, that's going to lessen demand for U.S. dollar denominated paper. And so it shouldn't surprise us to see that the U.S. dollar index is coming off in the face of that. I thought it was really interesting heading into that Fed announcement this morning. We had little algo signals firing bullish setups on things like the euro, which just instantly through that testimony ratcheted right up to their 2-to-1 objectives. So clearly a big move in currency land this morning. You can see the noticeable rally in the yen, and of course we've talked lots about gold-yen relationship, so that sort of takes us to our next chart. I've been actually musing recently that I saw a potential M top coming in on gold. With the yen was looking weaker. I suppose if that conversation is on the back burner, then we could actually make the argument that this M has not actually confirmed here on gold yet. That required a move through 1384.70 there And you can see how we came back down to that level, kissed it, and then we're moving back higher. Unfortunately, I don't really have enough of a justification to be thinking long gold just yet. We do have now one low, two lows. If we dip back down, wicks and tails like to be eaten, maybe eat that tail a little bit, hold these lows, and then turn back up, well, we can actually start hunting bullish scenarios on the gold, which frankly speaking is a little bit surprising. But if the Fed is in rate cutting mode and people don't want to own US paper, I could understand, sort of a safety bet, a fear bet, people panic buy up their gold. It was interesting. The mayor pointed out this morning that the rare earths metals, things like palladium, actually seem to be surging to new highs. And you can actually see that this is, while it's extremely aggressive, it is a very quick little cup and handle here. Yeah, I don't know whether I would really call that enough of a handle formation yet. But, the old adage, show me a new high and I'll show you a buy. Palladium is bucking the overall metal trend. This is sort of a commentary on the rare earths market. Any way you shake it, market's moving to new highs, which inherently in itself is a bullish bet, a bullish vote. So with that said, the metals are feeling a little better. US dollar's a little toppier. Yen's feeling a little bit better. I got to feel a little bit more encouraged about sort of flight to safety bets here in the face of potentially the Fed going back on the sidelines. This is now interesting as sort of a dovetail, because we've made the argument quite a lot recently that Bitcoin has been sort of a fear asset proxy. And if, palladium's pushing to new highs, yen's pushing to new highs, euro's pushing higher, US dollar's getting whacked, you can see the gold's trying to catch a bid here. It's really interesting to see how Bitcoin actually came off. Literally the moment that Mr. Powell started speaking, the whole crypto market sort of keeled over. What it was really interesting about this was the lady who is chairing the committee that's interviewing Mr. Powell here today. The very first question out of the gate from her was all about this Facebook and Libra coin, and his response simply was, we're watching the situation very closely. We're in close contact with the Facebook people, and we believe that we need to go very slowly on this, and it's going to take a lot of scrutiny. He did explicitly say, and I remember him saying this, that he wanted to be friendly to this blockchain space. So I don't think it was an outright condemnation from him of crypto, but more of, all these sort of side stories. Because keep in mind, Libra, if it's going to have government regulation, if it's going to be relatively centralized, it's not really a Bitcoin type cryptocurrency. So I didn't hear him actually poop on blockchain, and I didn't hear him poop on Bitcoin, but nonetheless, you can clearly see we came into levels that Brian's been talking about here recently. This is Coinbase. What was really cool about this trade was, and actually I think I have it on this chart. Yeah. No, actually I don't. So we'll finish this thought here. What was really cool about this trade was a lot of new site members, new level oneers who are learning the bot setup and how to sort of frame trades. You'll notice AB equals CD, and one low, two low, three low. Algo, of course, didn't give us a signal here, so I didn't go uber bull on this. But anybody who's trading the bot setup on the event, first thing this morning, you'll notice that Coinbase literally went right up. It kissed this bot objective level. Actually, here, let's redraw that so it's accurate. And then just promptly backed right off, which was so cool to see. Because this is often what I tell people is, it's a good idea to have your open orders working at your level, especially with like the bot, because you don't know what the heck's going to happen. And literally this level was tagged, and then literally within, you can see this is an hourly chart, the level was hit right here, and that was literally the end of the rally. And then literally Mr. Powell began speaking, and boom, the market just broke. I think specifically with regard to Bitcoin, right now, we're still playing in this range. We just basically came back against these key lows. And this just so happens to be a 38.2 fib retracement off of that. Our rule is basically we have to wait for Mr. Barbecue's level here, 38.2, to be resolved before we actually consider taking a trade. But, you know, I think I've been putting tweets and stuff out to this effect recently that we definitely had trade location. The next step for me was I needed to see momentum divergence. And I put out tweets to the effect that we actually had a double divergence forming here. And you can see this little mini divergence off of this move right here is now actually confirming with this dump. So we had location. We now definitely have one divergence. The question, of course, for me is this big honking divergence going to confirm? It's really going to sort of depend on how we resolve Mr. Burchett's level here. And, you know, like this is a good reason why you shouldn't take the trade at 38.2. My hunch, if this really is going to top out, is we'll come back up, then paint a nice M, and then see you later. So it's basically to that effect that I sort of talked about there on the tweets this morning. The short case is building here on Bitcoin. It sucks, but it is building. To that effect, we did have a recent, you know, on the Broiler Chicken show, we talked a little bit about a bot that was set up with algo confirmation on Ethereum. And you can see that those botters are going to be really tested right now. And this is one reason why I really like to use 3 lows. 1 low, 2 lows, 3 lows. Botters should have their stop just below that level right there, right? 270 and change. You can see how the markets come down. We busted out these recent lows. We're working against these lows now. And what our simple message was in the daily brief is, look, we're traders. We trade setups, and we have to have strong opinions, but those opinions have to be loosely held. If the market turns around and just simply says, look, you were wrong, you got to get out, you have to respect this stop level. So anybody in the public who took these algo bot level signals, if we break these lows, it means the setup failed and you have to walk away. It's just as simple as that. And I'm now going officially on record as saying that you can clearly see setups do fail. It just happens in this space. I suppose from a LJ setup perspective, we'd like to see, you know, 1, 2, 3 trend line tags. So we've got that to break. If I was actually thinking short here now, I want to see a counter trend rally and some sort of market structure on the other side of this trend line. So I'm not quite ready to actually call an Ethereum short just yet. But this long technically is still working, but no doubt about it, the trade's underwater right now. And, you know, if you did take this setup, you have to respect this low. And if we take out that low, you got to walk away from the trade. It sucks, but that's just the way it is. To sort of finish off the daily brief today with this kind of thought, Bitcoin is consolidating after a very well-defined technical objective hit. It looks like Ethereum is, you know, potentially failing. It hasn't failed yet. But what I've noticed is if we look at good old things like dominance, pushing to new highs. So, you know, that story that we've talked about recently, altcoins, it's just not their market. That seems to continue to be the case. And then if we look at things like altcoins, this is the big index of altcoins on Binance. It's just M'd out here. Remember we talked recently how we potentially had new W's coming in here and maybe we're going to get an altcoin season and things are looking good. That's off the table with this kind of price action. Market is broken cleanly through the lows, especially with this sort of, you know, we're going to have to study this Libra. We're going to have to go slowly on this Libra. My hunch is this was a blatant message to the market that altcoins, you still got to cool your jets. You're not out of the hot water just yet. So with all that said, we do have a couple little altcoin trades that we put on recently. We were going to risk on this BitTorrent against this 8-tick low. That trade's still working, kind of like the Ethereum trade's still working. You can see that it's underwater by a tick here. And we still have the Doge trade working, and you can see that it's underwater, and we're going to risk to this 24 low. If it's broken, we're going to walk away. This is a trader's life, people. Strong opinions, loosely held. And if these setups fail, then I just have to be a professional and just walk away. Okay, so that's your quick daily brief summary for today. Sure hope you enjoyed the offering. All the best, and bye for now.